Welcome back to another video, and today we are covering even more sloop essentials, as in the last video I showed you guys how to perfectly get yourself into a rotation, or more at least get yourself comfortable starting a rotation. It may not be perfect. And today we are going over the order of stuff you should worry about if you are in combat solo on a sloop, so let's get right into it. Now this video should be relatively quick, as it's a pretty straightforward process to follow. And since it's going to be so quick, I'm also going to cover weapons. If you are solo on a sloop, it is essential you have a blunderbuss, and I highly recommend an Eye of Reach for hitting farther shots, but you could have a sword, but it's definitely not the better way to go. So let's start with everything on our ship is completely destroyed. The mast is down, the wheel is fully obliterated, the anchor is obliterated, and we are taking pressure on the left hand side. Because most of the time in a solo, you'll only be taking pressure on one side. In this scenario, the mast is going to stay down. You don't have to worry about getting it back up and moving because your ship does not have to be sailing in order to do damage. What you do want to worry about is at least repairing your wheel so that you can turn it and match the rotation of whatever ship is trying to circle you. The wheel is pretty much number one priority at any point. Now obviously if your anchor is down, you definitely want to concern yourself with getting that raised, because obviously you can't turn your boat with your anchor down. But the good news is if you're a solo, you'll always have a handle you can grab onto because they can't break both off. So let me sail us out into the water a little bit here. Now you've probably seen it many times with professional players where the masts are just dropped the whole entire time. And that's because if you are good enough with matching the rotation of the boat, which is surprisingly easier to do as a stationary boat than you might think, then it doesn't matter if you're sailing at all, because you'll have lots of opportunity to also take their mast down, which is pretty important. Because if they are circling and for whatever reason drop your anchor, then it's no longer just one side of your boat that you have to worry about getting holes on. Now they can get holes on every single side of your boat. So especially if it's a duo or three-person boat, or God forbid a galleon, you want to either make sure all their masts are down, or you are guarding this ladder with your life to make sure they can't drop your anchor, because you cannot fully repair or bucket holes on all sides of your boat. However, you can fully bucket holes on just this side of the boat. So let's pretend like our wheel is fully fixed and our mast is still down. That's okay. So like I said, you're going to start matching rotation to however fast their boat is turning. This might take you might have to hop back up and turn it a notch to the right or a notch to the left, and you're going to start matching their rotation as they're sailing around you so you can lay cannonballs into them. Now I said earlier I recommend the Eye of Reach, and this is so that as they're sailing around you can try and snipe the cannon line and possibly kill someone, which puts you at a great advantage and possibly allows you to even get chain shots and take their mast down. And this is what high level sloop combat looks like. This is not important. It is a big help, don't get me wrong, and absolutely can win it for you if you are sailing and circling around someone who can't get your mast down. But as long as they are matching your rotation just like this, it is going to be very hard to sink the boat. Now, let's pretend like they're not really putting any fire back at you, your wheel is fully wrapped, and your mast is still down, and you still have holes on every single spot you can on that side of the boat. Well, first things first, if you have a chance to repair any, you want to go for this one all the way down here first. This is the deep hole. And that's because this is the farthest one away from running all the way over to these stairs and all the way back up for you to repair. So you want to get it dealt with first, and it's at a part of the boat that generally doesn't get hit too often. So in general, if you have the chance and everything else we've talked about is looked after, you can now run down and worry about repairing this hole. And then start waking your way all the way through to the back until you are pretty much patched up. And if you get to a chance where you are fully repaired and both your masts are down, it's not time to raise your mast yet, not even close. At this point, you will just send yourself over after you've put a few more cannonballs in and probably end the fight with the mast down. The biggest thing I learned that made me a better player was understanding how non-important the mast actually is in your combat. Now, I do want to talk about bucketing. Sorry, I call it bucketing efficiently. And you might see sometimes people throw buckets out that window or off. These are your two best options. You can either bucket and throw it right there. This is very easy to do. However, you only want to do this if you are not trying to bucket yourself dry. You only want to do this if there's consistently water around this level, so you can just look down, grab, and toss it, and you don't have to move at all. If you do have to move, you generally want to start throwing it out this window right here. And there is an easy way to do that. All you do is you put yourself right up against the window, look down a little bit so that the bucket is just below the threshold, and toss it out. It's going to sound like it splashed, but it didn't. It went right out the window. It's super weird. I don't really understand how the physics works, but again, see how my bucket is just below the windowsill there? Toss it out, missed. That time it didn't sound like it hit, but it still went out the window. And that's how you bucket out the window on a sloop every time. Just put yourself right up against this window and make sure the top of that bucket is just below this windowsill here and toss it out. And you're gonna bucket out that window consistently every single time. And that is more or less it. That is all the steps to efficiently manning your sloop should you get into an intense battle. Again, all these things will have to be practiced, and in the heat of battle, you might forget the order of things you have to do stuff in. So if there's one thing you take away from this video, it should be your wheel is most important. Worry about repairing your wheel more than, well, okay, if you're about to sink, bucket your boat. But in terms of repairs, worry about your wheel first. And the last takeaway, the mast does not matter. If you guys enjoyed this video or it helped you out at all, feel free to subscribe or turn on notifications. I'm going to do an entire series on solo sloop combat. So if that interests you, make sure you stick around the channel. We'll see you boys in the next one. Peace.